Kia ora, good evening. Investigations are continuing into the death of a 59-year-old man killed in a crash at the Reti Park Speedway near Invercargill on Saturday. Ronald Tree was in the sidecar of a Speedway racing bike being ridden by his son when the crash occurred on Saturday afternoon. Police say no other vehicle was involved in the collision. Mr Tree was taking part in a Have a Go day and was an experienced sidecar swinger. Speedway New Zealand President David Jones says an independent investigator from the organisation arrived in the city this afternoon to examine evidence and procedures. Police are also investigating. The crash is the second fatal motorsport incident in Invercargill in the past couple of months. A 65-year-old man died as a result of injuries after his vehicle left the track and hit a tyre safety wall at the Teretonga Speedway in February. A proposed new wind farm near Bluff may have been given the go-ahead, but it could be some time before anything is built, and the situation at the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter will have a bearing. Energy 3 was granted consent to build a wind farm at Green Hills between Bluff and Invercargill last March, but this stalled after an appeal to the Environment Court. The parties have now reached an agreement which allows the project to go ahead. However, Energy 3 Director Tom Cameron says repricing is underway due to delays and says the situation at the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter has a bearing on when work could start. There's a 5-year window within the consent. Recent rain has helped ease dry conditions in the south, but it hasn't been enough to return the region to normal. Rivers in western Southland are back to levels normal for this time of year. Rivers in northern Southland remain at 1 and 10-year lows. Water restrictions remain in place for Invercargill and Gore residents, and a fire ban for the whole region is still to be lifted. 24 consent holders remain suspended from taking water due to the conditions. 45 South meteorologist Andy Fraser says the south can expect more typical autumnal conditions over the coming week. Labour Party MPs Megan Woods and Trevor Mallard were in Invercargill visiting the Southern Institute of Technology today as part of the party's Save Our Polytechs campaign. Sarah Bedford spoke to Tertiary Education spokesperson Megan Woods about the campaign.
Well, it really is sparked off by the fact that in the last budget round, a whole lot of the money that otherwise went to polytechnics for level 1 and 2 courses became contestable. And this disappeared out of the polytech systems. The problem for the regions and places like Invercargill and all around New Zealand is that a lot of this money hasn't been put back into the regions where it came from, that they've done a national provision of that money. So what you have in a lot of provincial centres in New Zealand is actually far fewer places and far few opportunities for local people to study in their local area. So that's a real concern to us, because in Labour we firmly believe that our regional polytechs are hugely important to our regional economies, that if we're going to have strong regions and good opportunities for local people, then we've got to have strong polytechs in those areas. So we've set off on a bit of a fact-finding tour and going around and visiting, and not only talking to the polytechs, but talking to students, staff, chambers of commerce, mayors, leaders, finding out what it would mean to not have a strong polytech in their area.
Now you're here in Invercargill today. What are your concerns for the Southern Institute of Technology?
Well, the concerns for the Southern Institute of Technology is over a period of time, not in the last round of budget cuts, but since 2008, we've seen nearly $5 million, $4.9 million disappear in funding from SIT. That equates to about 220 places. So that's 220 local people that don't get the opportunity to study here through government funding. So that is of concern to us. So we want to have a talk to people. We want to see how that's playing out on the ground, what that's going to mean if local people can't get skills training down here in Invercargill. So, yep, having a chat to people, seeing how that is impacting locally.
What's the next steps now?
The next step is for us to go back and do some policy work on this and think, well, how could we do this better? How could we make sure that we do have a certain future for our polytechs? And that's been the purpose of getting out, talking to people on the ground and finding out what life would look like without those strong polytechs in these centres.
What do you think of SIT's situation? Do you think it's still a strong polytech?
I think SIT has been incredibly innovative and a real leader in terms of polytech provision in New Zealand. I mean, fees free, I think it's a real source of pride for people here in Invercargill, and it was a really innovative solution. I think our concern is to make sure that it's not in jeopardy, that its future does look certain. I mean, more than ever, I mean, we have record rates of unemployment in this country. We need to make sure that local people can get skills training. I mean, last year we had one of your local engineering firms down here saying they needed to bring in migrants under the skilled worked category because they just couldn't find local people, and that's hardly surprising, given that we've seen something like a 54% decrease in the number of people doing apprenticeships down here in Southland since 2008, and that's the kind of thing that can't pan out if we want to find a way to create jobs for local people.
A group of protesters took to the streets of Invercargill at the weekend to show their opposition to legal highs. The protest was organised by Southlander Tracy Metternich, who says she wants to raise awareness about the side effects and get people to look at their health. 2 stores which sell legal highs were the targets of the protesters on Saturday, and the group is planning a month of action with protests at different stores around the city every weekend. She says one of her ultimate goals is to see Invercargill free of chemical legal highs. Stay with us, still to come, the oyster industry is booming and an increased quota could be on the cards. Welcome back. A proposed bylaw which recommends people own no more than 3 cats and regulates animals being kept in the city could be in place by August. The proposed Keeping of Animals, Poultry and Bees bylaw will go to Invercargill City Council's Regulatory Services Committee tomorrow night. With the recommendation, it then go out for public consultation. One of the purposes of the proposed bylaw is to regulate the keeping of animals to ensure they don't create nuisance or endanger health. It follows public submissions on the city's long-term plan. It could go out for public consultation in less than a week and be in force by August. The Bluff oyster season is now well underway and talk is positive in the industry. Barnes oyster manager Graham Wright says talk in the industry as the oyster beds appear to be recovering and the fishery is seeing positive growth. The fishery was affected by the parasite Bonamia from 2000 to 2005, seeing the industry elect to lower the quota from the government-sanctioned limit of 14.9 million. Last year, that quota was raised to 11.5 million, and in a few weeks, the industry may again look at the quota after the results of testing work are known. Invercargill's first official urupa, or Maori cemetery, officially opened at the weekend. Around 60 people, including kaumātua, runanga and members of the community, were at the opening early on Sunday morning. The urupa on Mason Road is called Te Haumutanga, the last breath. A ceremony on Sunday saw the site and a small monument blessed, a gateway unveiled and a set of Maori remains believed to be hundreds of years old were laid to rest. Waihopai runanga Upoko Michael Skerritt says that urupa has been more than 15 years in the making. Cyclists are being urged to brighten up as daylight saving comes to an end. Penalties for not being visible on bikes and not wearing helmets will be enforced over the next 3 months as cyclists are targeted to ensure they're seen on the roads. I spoke to Road Safety Southland Road User Safety Advisor Maureen Ducras, who says bright lights on bikes and high visibility gear is essential.
It's a good time, Margot, at this time of the year with daylight saving, that riders take responsibility, have another look at their own safety and a whole lot of things around being safer on the road. They need to light up. Just think bright. So think how you're looking. So think about perhaps wearing high vis when you're out on the road. Think about making yourself brighter, but think about how drivers and vehicles can identify you, so you need to be bright. You need to have like all the reflectors on, the red one at the back of the bike. You need to have a flashing one at the front of the bike. That can be bought easily and worn easily, taken off, attached with ease, and they're really cheap too. Have a look around. Kathmandu offers a great one that you can slip over the helmet. Online sites offer great deals like bikewise.co.nz. Go and have a wee visit there. But I guess cyclists need to be thinking about being predictable on the bike. They need to be thinking what routes they're going to take, especially with all the roadworks around the city at the moment. Is it the safest place to go to be riding? Think about their position on the road. Are they in the safest place? Trying to keep away from car doors opening, staying in cycle lanes, Not being in the centre of the lane helps, especially with the traffic coming behind them. So just think how they can be brighter on their bike, thinking brighter, dressing brighter.
Now, there are some fines if people are caught without the appropriate lighting.
It's probably a good idea to go and have a wee look at the road code and remind people. $55 for not wearing a helmet, that's a well-known one, but $55 if they're not riding without the correct lighting. So that's your red reflector, your yellow reflector and your white front lights.
What about advice for drivers?
Take it easy, give them a bit of space. They're smaller, more vulnerable than you. Just anticipate that they're not always going to be riding in straight lines and give them space. Share the road.
There was plenty of action in and around the Waihopai River as Southlanders took part in the 10th annual Wai Tri yesterday. Around 400 people took part in this year's event. The Wai Tri has 6 races ranging from a 30-kilometre triathlon to a just over 9-kilometre recreational walk, and entrants can set their own fitness challenges. The multi-sport event was started by Environment Southland a decade ago to raise awareness of the river and the environment. This was the last event organised by the Regional Council, although it's hoped Sports Southland will take over the event. And that's it from news. After weather, next is sport, where we have our Super 15 wrap following another Highlanders loss to the Blues in Auckland. From the news team, good night.